Hi, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be reviewing a book that I just finished last night at like 2 in the morning, and I just could not wait any longer to talk about this book because it has been a very long time since I've read a book for fun. Before I get into that, the book I'm reviewing today is obviously Loki, Where Mischief Lies by Mackenzi Lee. This book has pretty much single-handedly brought me back to my love for reading. I feel like that's not an easy feat, especially considering the fact that I have not read for fun in a very long time. It's been probably it's been over 2 years, if we're being really real right now. I used to read all of the time, reading used to be my favorite thing in the world, and then I just stopped pretty much as soon as I hit college. Kind of towards the end of high school I stopped because I was so busy, but college I really stopped just because there's so much going on all the time. I lost that side of myself, and I was really upset about it for a long time because I felt like if I went back into reading, I wasn't going to have the same reaction I had when I was a kid. It's just really hard for me to focus on stuff now after, the wear and tear of college and reading all the stuff you have to do for school. It just really gets to you, and it kind of takes away the fun in reading overall. I decided to take a chance on this book because I heard about it a few months ago. One of my friends told me about it, and it just sounded really cool. Obviously, I was going to read it anyway because it has Loki in it, and Loki is my favorite character of all time. Even then, I was a little bit hesitant at first just because I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to do it, if I was going to be able to actually read the entire thing. But I did, and I absolutely loved it, so that's why I'm making this video today. So, Mackenzi Lee, I've heard a lot of good things about her. I haven't read any of her other stuff, which is surprising, because she has a lot of pretty good, famous titles out there. I heard she was going to explore Loki's sexuality and gender fluidity in this book, and that is something that I've always, I've been dying for people to talk about that more, because that is, how he is in mythology. I always wanted, Marvel, the MCU, somehow to incorporate that into their, movies or anything like that, and no one had done it yet. I heard she had experience with writing this kind of stuff in her other books previously, so I knew she had a pretty good grip on things, and I was really excited to see what she was going to do with it. In we go. This book was really funny. I thought it was a genuinely funny book. It had funny moments in it that I really appreciated. It's a young adult book, so you have to have, those sprinkles of humor in there mixed in with the drama and stuff, and she did a really good job at that, and I really liked it. It didn't feel like I was reading a young adult book. And that's not saying that I don't love young adult books, because I do. I read so many when I was younger, and even at the age that I am now, almost 23, I still love reading them. It didn't feel like there were certain points that were too childish, or certain points that didn't make sense. And I know you can't really do that with books like this that have to do with a mythology and superheroes and stuff, because all of it is just fake as shit, My biggest concern about this book was that the characterization for them that I had in my head wasn't going to match what was on the paper, which is fine, everyone has their own ideas of what these characters are supposed to be like. She did an amazing job with the characterization of these people. In particular, I really liked her characterization of Thor. Thor isn't in this book for very long. The parts that he is in are just, it's phenomenal how spot on she got with him. This book is pre MCU, so it's pre the first Thor movie. The book is in 2 parts. In the first part of the book, they're preteens, I guess. Still a little bit childish with each other, and you can see that in the ways that they interact with each other and the conversations that they have. Thor is very, he's very Thor. That's the only way I can describe it. He's quick to fight with his brother, he bites back, he always has something to say, and Loki's just constantly kind of dumbing him down, because he's kind of dumb, and Loki knows that, so he kind of takes that to his advantage, and they just kind of bicker all the time. But the biggest thing about this book is that relationship between the two of them is there, and it's evident that it's been there for a really long time. It doesn't really go into their childhood or anything, but Thor genuinely cares about his brother, and Loki, as much as he doesn't want to admit it, cares about Thor. And it was just really nice to see that sort of relationship between them, because I feel like in the MCU we don't get it enough. And I really appreciate it as both a Thor and a Loki fan. Like, those are two of my favorite characters ever. And getting to see that relationship between them as preteens, you know, was really awesome. Loki's characterization was amazing as well. He was just this like dramatic little diva. She would describe the outfits he would wear. He would wear like heeled boots, and he had his nails painted black, and he was just so cute. Like, he was cute in my head. And then like just him on the cover itself, like, this man is stunning. Like, I don't know. I just love him. He was very much Loki. Like, he always had a smart comment to make, a smart remark. He was always like, you know, one-upping Thor. He was really nice to see, and I really enjoyed that. The relationship that Loki had with his father, with Odin, was very evident from the beginning. Not a very good relationship. Odin is very weary when it comes to Loki. He doesn't trust Loki as much as he trusts Thor, and obviously that's evident in like the movies and stuff like that. In the very first Thor movie, we see that kind of firsthand. It's nothing new. Like, it's been going on for a very long time according to this book. So that relationship was there. Also, the relationship with their mother was amazing. Loki was closer with his mom, and that was kind of a thing that was established in the movies as well, but it was established in here that he was very close with his mom, and they had a lot in common because they both were sorcerers and they could do magic and stuff, and Loki wasn't allowed to do magic. His father had kind of banished him from doing that. She would kind of teach him in secret, and they just had that kind of special connection between each other, which I really, really liked. Some original characters we have in here. We have a girl named Amora. She is pretty much Loki's best friend. She is his only other friend that he has besides Thor, and he doesn't really consider Thor his friend either, because they just don't get along. She's a lot like Loki, but she is more outgoing because Loki's kind of afraid to speak out. He's afraid to do much because of his father. His father kind of scares him. But Amora's really not scared of anything, so she's really fearless. She's the only other magical person he has in his life besides his mom, so they kind of have that connection there, and she's very open in helping him and stuff like that. So she's the one in the summary, so whenever you read the little summary of the book, she is the one that she gets banished to Earth after a little mishap happens, and Loki's just kind of devastated. He doesn't know what he's going to do without his best friend, and that's kind of where part 1 ends. Part 2 takes up the rest of the book, and we kind of do like a little time jump into the future. So at this point in part 2, Loki is now a teenager. He's kind of the age he was in the first Thor movie, I'm assuming. They've got a lot more responsibility on their hands, and they're doing like diplomatic missions for his father, and both of them are kind of trying to figure out who exactly is going to get the throne to Asgard. And this is pre-Thor 1, so Thor hasn't taken the throne yet. None of that's happened. Both of them think that they still have a chance at the throne. Loki thinks his might not be as equal as his brother's is, but he's still going to try. Mackenzi Lee has a degree in history as well, and so this is a historical fiction novel set in London in like the 18th century, and she did an amazing job at that. Like, everything was described to a T, and I could picture everything perfectly in my head, which I really appreciate, because sometimes I'll read things and I can't picture it. I can't picture the characters or like where they're at, the setting, and she did an amazing job at that, and I really felt like she encapsulated this era of London. We have a few more original characters in this book as well, and they're all in London because Loki gets sent to Earth to do something for his father. These characters were all very different from each other, and I really enjoyed every single one of them. We have Mrs. S, who's like an older lady who runs this society that his father tells him to go help on Earth. We also have a man named Jem, who is he's like your adorable, loving idiot. Like, he's a really big buff guy who helps out with the society, but he's just kind of dumb. But Loki comments in the book that he reminds him of his brother, so you know, that kind of helps. Take that as you will. There's another character, his name is Theo. He's like a dork. He's adorkable, if you will. He has a lot of knowledge about like Norse mythology, so he knows about Asgard and Odin and Thor and Loki, and so he's really excited to share his knowledge with Loki, but of course Loki's not having it. He's adorable. He also he's kind of skinny. He has a bad leg, so he uses a cane. It's pretty clear from the beginning that he's like one of those characters that's just happy to be there. Like, he just wants to help in any way that he can. He's a sweetheart. I am a crybaby, and I cry at a lot of stuff, and I cried like 3 times during this book. Some of the stuff that happens in here is kind of heartbreaking. A lot of the things that go on in his life just kind of broke my heart. I think that's just because he's one of my favorite characters ever, that I just have this soft spot for him, and I always have had this soft spot for him. But I think it's interesting because this was endorsed by Marvel and Marvel asked her to write this book. I kind of just take this whole thing as like canon now. Like, all of this stuff happening to him before the first Thor movie and before the MCU and all that stuff is just, I don't know, like, he has honestly been through some shit, and I feel really bad for him at points. He's also still Loki, so he also makes a few choice decisions in this book that wouldn't surprise anyone that knows who Loki is and like what he does. I was kind of hoping that things would be a little different. I read a few reviews before I read this book, and a lot of people said they didn't like the ending, and so I was kind of like, like, the ending wasn't bad. Like, I think the book overall was amazing, and I definitely would give it like 4.5 stars out of 5. Like, that's how good it was to me. It left me a little sad because I felt like Loki could have done something else. The decisions that he makes in this book obviously make sense, and you know, I agree with a lot of them. There's still that little bit of hope in me that wants him to be good, but as we know, like, a big theme in this book is like his destiny being written for him, and so like he's struggling with his identity and trying to figure out who he's going to be in the future. Is he a villain? Is he a hero? Is he like his brother? Is he the opposite of his brother? Like, he's not sure. And I think that's kind of the point of the ending that she ended up going with for this book. Like I said at the beginning, she was going to explore a lot of Loki's like sexuality and gender fluidity in this book, which she did, and did it very tastefully. It was very well written. It didn't feel like forced or anything like that. The situations and like circumstances he found himself in all made sense, and it was more of like innocence of him trying to figure out again who he is as a person. Bisexual Loki rise. He makes like one comment about his gender fluidity, how he doesn't like believe in gender, and that's kind of all she touches upon in the book. That's like enough for me, and it's evident the way he acts and talks and dresses and stuff like that, that's never been like an issue for him, and I really liked that. There is one quote in this book. There's a lot of quotes that I really liked in this book, but I have a favorite quote, and it was one that like sent me into tears last night when I was reading this at like 2 a.m. Kind of like encompasses the whole entire theme of the story. It's just him trying to find himself and who he is as a person. I don't know what you think you know about yourself, but none of it's true. You are the only one who gets to decide what you become. Not your father or Thor or the ancient Viking poets or the stars or any of them. They don't know a thing about you. No one gets to decide who you are. Oh, that whole scene just kind of made me like cry. This whole book just made me cry. I loved it so much. I just want to personally thank Mackenzi Lee for getting me back on my reading bullshit, because it needed to happen, and I forgot how much I loved reading, and this book kind of just brought me back into the world. She did an amazing job at a character that I have loved for several years now. I definitely recommend it to people, even if you only have the slightest interest in him or something like that. If you care about him at all in any sort of capacity, I think you'll really enjoy this book. Even if you're not a Marvel fan, even if you don't know anything about Loki, I think you'll still enjoy it. It's a great story. There's a lot of good things happening in it. There's a lot of good writing. There's a lot of good plot to it. Kept me on my toes, which is pretty hard to do sometimes, considering the fact that I have like one brain cell and like don't have an attention span anymore because of college. This kept me interested the entire time. It took me a week to read this, not even a week, but that was only because I would literally purposely not read it. Like a couple nights ago, I had it sitting next to me in my bed and I didn't want to read it because I didn't want to finish it. Like, obviously I wanted to know what happened so bad, but I just didn't want to be heartbroken when I finished it because I knew then it'd be over and then I would be done with this amazing story. But, last night I just had to finish it, and I did, and I cried, but like, you know what, it was definitely worth it, and I really, really loved it. Just to add to this, Marvel and Mackenzi Lee, if you ever do any sort of adaptation of this, if it's like a movie or like a show, I want to be Amora. I think I could do it. Honestly, I think I could. I'm about to get a theater degree. I know how to act. Just call me up. We can make it happen. It'll be awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching this. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to. Hopefully, I'll have more book reviews on this channel, as well as movie and TV show reviews. But this was really fun to do, and I really hoped you guys enjoyed it. So, get out there and read this book. Bye, guys.